Hey, everybody. Welcome to our webinar today, Induction Cooking, the High Performance Way to Cook. I'm Joe Wachunas at Electrify Now, here as always with my teammate Brian Stewart. And we have one of our most favorite guests of all time, Rachelle Boucher, who we'll introduce in just a second to take us through a live cooking demonstration with Induction. Just for those of you for this first time at an Electrify Now webinar, we are an all-volunteer organization promoting electrification as the quickest path to decarbonization and something that all of us can take an active part in achieving. And this webinar is presented in partnership with the Learn program, the San Diego Learn program, excuse me. It's a San Diego-based workforce education and training program that has partnered with Electrify Now to offer free energy efficiency and electrification webinars. Please visit the Learn website for more information, www.sandiegolearn.com. All right, so this is part of our Go Electric webinar series, talking about the benefits of electrification for homeowners. All year, we've been looking at key electrification technologies and all their benefits, such as lower energy bills, cleaner indoor air, of course, less pollution outdoors, increased safety, and more comfort. And we're going to be diving into all of these benefits with induction cooking today. But why talk about cooking? I mean, compared to your furnace and water heater, emissions from cooking are relatively low, but cooking is often a reason people stay with the gas system. And in new construction, it's the reason homes are connected to gas lines. So teaching people how great induction cooking is thus a great way to get fossil fuels out of our home. Now, of course, we've seen that gas cooktops create harmful indoor air pollution. We'll look at that in more detail in just a second. But other reasons why to talk about cooking is that induction is safer and superior to gas, and people are still unaware about induction. A recent survey showed that 30% of people didn't even know what induction cooking was. So we need to tell the world about this great technology. But before we do that, let's just chat a little bit of level set on how bad cooking with gas is in the home. We wanted to highlight some key trusted institutions and what they say about cooking with gas. The American Medical Association says that use of a gas stove increases household air pollution and the risk of childhood asthma, not just a little bit, but there's a 40% increased risk in developing asthma symptoms with a gas stove. Stanford says that a single gas burner can create higher indoor concentrations of cancer-causing benzene than secondhand tobacco smoke, meaning that if you have a gas stove in your home, it's like living with a smoker. And just this week, California passed a law that's going to require gas stoves to have warning labels about the risks of indoor air pollution starting in 2025. So it's pretty well established how dangerous cooking with gas is for indoor air quality. But we're going to talk most of today talking about induction. So Brian, talk to us about the benefits of cooking.
Yeah, well, so we have an amazing demonstration for you just a minute, but just to top line the amazing benefits, and you're going to hear more about all of this stuff, but you've got, this is just such a superior technology, and anyone who's used it will tell you they would never go back to gas. Much better temperature control. You'll see that you can heat things faster. You can also cool things faster, because when you turn the burner, so to speak, off, there's no heat going into your pan. So that means you can control the temperature really quickly. It makes it a lot easier to avoid burning things. The surface is easy to clean. I think in this picture, you can imagine spilling some pancake batter on there, pretty easy to clean up. And they're safer. We'll talk more about all these things. They produce none of these harmful emissions from combusting fumes. That doesn't mean you should still have a hood and ventilation. We'll talk more about that too, because cooking always creates some sort of particulates and other things you don't want to be breathing, smoke, but it doesn't create these things that are linked to asthma and other respiratory diseases that are a real problem with gas cooktops. And they don't leak methane into your home. You know, a gas cooktop will be leaking methane even when you're not using it. So lots of reasons to be excited about these. They come in 3 basic configurations. Portable hot plates are a great way to start. If you just want to try this out for about $60, you can get one, plug it right on your countertop and try it and see what it's like for yourself. Of course, the main solution for most people is a slide-in range, and they come in a variety of sizes and configurations. And then, of course, you can also get them as a separate cooktop, and maybe you put your oven somewhere else. This is pretty popular. These come in a variety of sizes, from really small ones for small kitchens to, large ones, etc. all the major manufacturers are all in on this technology. So you're going to find anybody who makes a stove, period, makes an induction stove, and there's more and more of them all the time. Our panelists will talk more about this, but of course they start at about $1,000. And just for reference, these entry prices have been coming down a little bit, but they're still about $400 more than what you would pay for a glass cooktop electric range. So there's a bit of a premium here. But again, a lot of these prices that even since I've been doing this, they've come down quite a bit. But they're still a bit more expensive than other technologies, and you can get them into these larger sizes, like the more industrial size, the 36-inch, if you like that look in your kitchen. And then, Chef Rachelle is going to talk more about this, but cookware is always a big question. Like, what about my pots and pans? Will they work? The truth is a lot of pans will work. It's not always obvious, but the feature that makes them work is whether they are magnetic, particularly on the bottom surface. And so you can always just put a magnet on there and try. But in general, cast iron and ceramic pots, if you have some of these, we've got some that have been handed down. Literally, I have them from my mother. She used them, and I'm still using them, and they work great. All aluminum, like pure aluminum pans, won't work. And you probably don't want to be using all aluminum pans anyway, because there's some safety issues with that. Copper bottom pans, I had some nice old copper bottom pans. They didn't work. There are some new copper pans that have the configurations that Chef Rachelle will talk about that. And then stainless steel is kind of like, it might work, it might not. You really have to check it out with a magnet. It depends on the composition of the stainless steel. But I think the point is that most likely some of the pans you currently have will work, maybe most of them, or maybe even all of them, but there's no way to tell without doing this. And the other thing I'd throw out there is just look online. There's some amazing deals on good cookware. You don't have to spend a fortune if you need to buy some new pots. Okay, so before we turn it over, I want to just point out, we're going to put these links in the chats, but there's some really good resources out there if you're thinking about buying a new stove. Consumer Reports has this whole guide on induction, what you need to know, as well as ratings on products. We love Yale Appliance. They're a store in the Boston area, but they have this great learning center and these blogs. So if you go to their learning center and blogs, you can find topics on almost any kind of appliance, but specifically they have great things on induction, different types of products. They have good information about reliability studies, because they've sold and serviced so many of these. They have really good data on that. And then, okay, our guest today works for Building Decarbonization Coalition, which has this amazing website called The Switch Is On. And there's a page on that site dedicated to all electric kitchen. Tons of great information there, as well as all the incentive information you would want for California on anything to do with going electric in your home. So those are 3 great resources. But the best resource of all is the guest we have today with us, Chef Rachelle Boucher. She's the senior lead for culinary events at the Building Decarbonization Coalition. We'll call the BDC, an amazing organization that's on the forefront of helping consumers understand the benefits of electrification, working on policy to make it easier to get these good devices like that California warning label thing we just talked about. BDC was very influential in getting that to pass. And she's got all this experience as a professional chef, creating these custom training programs and workshops she worked for appliance brands. She still does a lot of consulting for them, architects, designers, developers, and people like us that are just people who want to know what to use and how to make sure we're getting the right products, etc. And she's all in on electric cooking appliances of all sorts. And you'll hear as we introduce her, she's a wealth of knowledge on anything to do with cooking. So welcome, Rachelle. It's so fun to have you back. You're our favorite panelist. I can say that categorically. So thanks for joining us.
Just because I have the food. What a great intro. Thank you so much. And thank you for setting all of that context about the whys, the hows, everything. So it's really an honor. The Building Decarbonization Coalition is my home and my passion. So I was a corporate a chef, as you mentioned, a corporate chef in the appliance industry. So I'm a cooking appliance industry insider, aka appliance whisperer, as well as I was a private chef, a fancy private chef for many, many years. So I really had, and then I did a lot of work with youth, disadvantaged youth. So I've really had these amazing adventures. And to be really honest, y'all, this is the greatest adventure I've ever had. To be able to bring the message, like you said, not everybody understands this induction thing. I totally get it. I really understand. So I want to show you and illustrate some of the things that you talked about and even get into some other details. So I just want to give a huge shout out. We moved from California. We were there in the Bay Area for 30 years. I love you, Bay. I'm really honored to have had the opportunity to move back home to Maine. And as you guys had mentioned, we were talking before we got live, Maine, my birth state and now my home state of Maine, is doing amazing things on electrification. And case in point, I am living in a new, my husband and I live in a new place called the Sandpiper, Maine, and it's an all-electric building. So you guys might not know, but Joe, who you saw for a moment, he is known at times to dress up like a heat pump because he's so passionate about it. I am in love with induction. That is our focus. But oh my gosh, you guys, living with a heat pump is a miracle. I have never had like perfect weather indoors all the time. And in Maine, in the winter, I'm going to need it. So this is actually heat pump nation here in Maine, and I'm super proud of that. But let's talk about induction cooking. So you guys, I know here and there, you can throw me some questions as you'd like, but I am the proud owner of my new induction range here, like you talked about. And we'll talk about different types of cooking. We'll definitely go into the cookware information, but I wanted to show you a couple things. So those of you may or may not know, this is one of my favorite squash. So it's fall, y'all. This is my first actual autumn that I've had in 30 years. This is a delicata squash. So it is super fun because you don't need to peel it and you can grill it. So it grills right in the pan and it has this little kind of festive look, if you will. So if you are into vegetables, maybe if you're not, right? I want to show you some really great things. So the delicata squash, I cooked up in the pan. So I'm going to talk about cookware in just a moment. Well, let me deal with that now. So your cast iron, you've talked about this, Joe, but your plain old cast iron is amazing on induction. And I'll just show you a little bit more about that. So one of the reasons is, like you said, it's magnetic. And like you said, as long as a magnet sticks. So I do go around with our Building Decarbonization Coalition handy dandy magnets, and you can stick it on, like you said, the bottom of the pan. But what is really amazing when you use cast iron is cast iron inherently takes a long time to heat up. It heats up significantly faster here, which is incredible, and very, very evenly. We really didn't talk about the simple science of induction, so let me do that for you. What induction is, as opposed to getting really hot, if you think about, like you had mentioned those flat top electric, which are not fun, they get really, really hot on the bottom and transfer some of that heat into the pan. What I have going on here, and I just put this back on, this is, there are copper coils hidden underneath this. We call them elements. And they get really, when I turn this on, they turn on and they actually create a magnetic connection with the pan. That creates friction. So you guys know friction. When you do this, you get heat. That's actually what's happening, not just under the pan, but it's actually happening inside the pan. So my pan becomes my element, and it's phenomenal. Now, a couple benefits to that. We talked about even cooking, but you're also going to have something that is an amazing phenomenon. Your handles will stay cooler much longer. It's amazing. So I've actually cooked on this cast iron for a little while before we turn this on. So it has gotten a little warm, but what a cool benefit. So there's all the obvious benefits to induction cooking, which we'll get into. And then there's the, but wait, there's more stuff that I talk about where there are additional benefits that you discover once you become inducted, I say. So, right. So cast iron is amazing. Stainless steel, like you mentioned, is pretty incredible. I want to show you, this is a very fancy pan. It doesn't have to be a fancy pan. This is one of my favorites. This is from Heston, but I want to show you all. So if you are into searing or charring peppers, I just wanted to show you, I did this beforehand because we have limited time. So I just put the pepper in here and I turned it, right? So instead of doing it in the flame, and that's the only cleanup that you're going to need to do. And this comes off really, really easily. So you can definitely oil these if you want, but I love charring the pepper straight in the pan like that. And you can do multiple. So that's a question people have a lot, like, how can I char peppers? One of the aspects of my job at the Building Decarbonization Coalition, and you touched on it, is I get to train and mentor chefs to join me in this joyous movement. And so we have chefs all across the country. One of our chefs in Arizona, Anthony Serrano, he is second generation Mexican American. If that guy cannot char things the right way, it's not going to happen. And he's absolutely passionate about this. So one of the things we show all the time, now with induction, one of the things that is interesting for people, so I push this button here and I push one touch and it's going to go on full. So this is room temperature water. Well, as we talk about cookware, cast iron, we talked about, right? This is copper clad, but it's induction friendly copper clad. More and more cookware companies are coming along and saying, wait, we've got to make our cookware induction because this movement is happening quickly. So we've got those. And then while this water is coming to a boil, which won't take me long, I'm going to talk a little bit about wok cooking, and then we'll do some high heat cooking as well. Okay. So cast iron here, we have our copper clad over here, and then I'm going to boil some water back there for one of my favorite foods on earth. So cookware, one more step on cookware, wok cooking. If you want to do wok cooking, which who doesn't, you need a flat bottom wok, and the wider, the larger the space here, the better. So this is my fancy wok. I have a way less fancy wok that probably cost me $40 that I love, and it works beautifully as well. Magnets stick to both of them. This I got from Heston. My fancy wok I got at the wok shop in Chinatown in San Francisco. So the difference is just your flat bottom. There are concave cooktops or plugins that have a concave surface that you can put your round bottom wok in, and they're phenomenal. I already have boiling water over here. Let me do one more information about cookware. All kinds of good stuff. And like you said, you can get cookware all over the place, and you'd be surprised how much of your own cookware works. Many of your induction range tops, even in your lower price points, have what's called a bridge burner, meaning you can connect two burners together. So this is a griddle pan. You can also do grill pans. This is our breakfast slayer. This is amazing. We put all kinds of vegetarian sausage on here, eggs. That's amazing. So that's a lot of fun as well. Really high heat boil over here. Y'all can probably see that. And I can even lift it a little bit and it will still be boiling. Kind of cool if I come up that high now, but it's still making that magnetic connection.
And
right?
Rachelle, the one thing I love about my induction is that precision that you get. If you turn the temperature down on that boil, it just instantly goes down, right?
Instantly. And I think you guys can probably see that action there. Yeah. You turn it off. And it surprises me every time, like it's totally off. That is so fun when you are cooking and getting used to that level of precision. It's amazing. And speaking of that, I was a private chef for years, as I mentioned, and my clients have all kinds of culinary heritage that I have to be sensitive to. I cannot be bad at making rice in my job. So what I love, Joe, is that you can figure out from these dials a precision about what temperature you want to use. So some induction cooktops have either a sensor or a dial that can actually tell you your cooktop temperature, which is amazing. Now, what I do here is when I make rice, I turn it up to the full boil. It boils in moments. I turn it all the way down to 3. Now, what does 3 mean? It means that I tried it once and it was perfect. And then I can set my timer for my rice, and it is perfect every single time. So those of you that struggle, rice can be a little wonky if you didn't kind of grow up learning it. So it's really, really amazing. So precision is key. So we have speed, we have
I
precision.
cook a lot of rice on gas stoves, and basically just live with the fact that you're gonna have burned rice on the bottom and it'll be good on top.
It's yes, even if you put it down to that itsy bitsy simmer, I know. And also you can have boil overs. So if you do have a boil over, because one of the things you do need to get used to is the speed of precision, right? You're like, yeah, this is amazing. So if you have a boil over, it is going to, in most cases, boil over, and actually your cooktop will shut off because it sees that, which is amazing. Also, if all of my water boils out, it will shut off eventually. So this pan, if I want to get this super hot and seared for like a blackened fish, no problem. But after a while, it will realize that maybe I've walked away.
Okay.
And I want to tell you, yes.
Maybe just on that note of safety. I mean, I see you have a towel underneath your cast iron pan. Talk to us about safety and how hot that burner is with your cooking.
Isn't that crazy? So what I have here, this is actually a colored silicone mat, but I will also do the towel. So this is called a Silpat, and it is a silicone mat. I think some people are somewhat familiar with them. It is entirely safe to cook on, not a problem. There's some steam coming off of it, and I can also have a towel nearby, or even underneath. If there is flax or linen or any kind of microfibers in your towel, that's not good. So I don't tell people to do that, but I can show you as I cook the chicken right here. All right. So what I'm going to do is...
Rachelle, why did you have the Silpat underneath there? What's the purpose of that?
Why did I have the Silpat underneath? Thank you for pointing that out. Couple of things. If you are cooking something really messy, I actually have a couple of these. I can cook like crazy all over this, and all the grease will land right on here, and it's no problem. The other benefit of having a Silpat is that if my cookware were really raggedy on the bottom, which it's not, it can protect the surface of your cooktop. But it's not. It's pretty smooth.
Gotcha.
Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put this back on, and I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to put this pot on. And we'll get, I will do a little bit of chicken. So any questions? What is coming up in the questions and the chats, gentlemen?
So folks are wondering, they had an interesting question. They're wondering about cookware. That's been a big question. And they're wondering, is there a metal ring or some sort of kind of aftermarket product where you can put on pans that don't work on induction? Do you have any opinions on that?
That's great that you asked, because I know that Brian and I were kind of actually chatting about that a little bit last week. There is an adapter that you can get that creates a magnetic connection. It's not the greatest thing because it's a go-between. Do you know what I mean? So it is getting hot, and then some of that heat is transferring. So you're going away from what makes induction really powerful, which is that direct magnetic connection friction thing. So it can work, but it's not as, it takes away a little bit of the function.
I mean, it sort of like turns your induction stove into an electric resistance stove in terms of the way it
Yeah,
works.
but without as much mess, so
Right.
that's cool.
So,
What I'm doing now, and I will talk about air quality in a minute, absolutely. So I'm just going to put a little seasoned flour on this. I had, I will totally brag about this. I legit was George Lucas's very own private chef for many years. And I forget to like brag about that because that's super fun. It was a long time ago. It was when episode 1 was being released, okay? However, episode 1 meaning The Phantom Menace. So he loved piccata. He was a piccata guy. So chicken piccata is really fun. It is a pounded chicken, has a little bit of seasoning. There's actually some fun vegetarian versions of a piccata, and it happens pretty quickly. What I had back then, though, was a gas cooktop. So chicken piccata, because you are cooking batches of chicken, and there's a lot of spattering. So there's a lot to clean up. In this case, I have much less to clean up. So I'm just going to put that in, and I'll use just a little bit of oil and a little bit of butter. But yeah, George is a big piccata guy. Who knew?
And how's the noise?
And I'm not kidding. All right, this is another good one. Marty Scorsese came to dinner. We will talk. Best night of my life, I swear.
Wow.
I did not make chicken
I bet
piccata.
he likes chicken piccata too.
All right.
Hey, Rachelle, how's the noise? We're not hearing any noise on camera, but what about the induction? Oh my gosh, it looks delicious. But
isn't that great? And it's even actually lighter than it is from. So let's talk about noise. Thank you. The noise I hear is the chicken. So if I can't hear you, it's just because the chicken's being loud. So when you have a plug-in hob sometimes, or some of the cooktops or ranges, they can sometimes have a little bit of vibration or a little bit of a sound. It depends on a couple of things. Sometimes it's the unit itself, and sometimes it's the makeup of your cookware that can create that. With some of them, ooh, that looks good. Yeah, really nice. With some of them, sometimes it'll buzz a little bit in the beginning and then it'll stop. So there can be some noise in it, and that doesn't bother me at all. And sometimes like it can be completely eliminated depending on what kind of cookware you get. So the piccata, the chicken is done.
Sorry, just on the noise thing, oh, look at that. Oh my gosh.
So good. And then what's really nice, Joe, I'll get your question in a second. What's really nice is I can go off completely, because here's where you want to deglaze your pan. And when you make a lot of chicken piccata or anything of that sort, fan.
Yeah, can we see
it's
the fan
really
there, Rob?
easy to get that pan too hot. But being able to turn it off like that and deglaze is amazing. So those of you that are notorious like garlic burners, I understand, y'all. I get it. It's probably not you. I usually put my garlic in at this point and just kind of let it soften in the pan. So with the piccata, you've got some stock. I'll put some lemon juice in there. We'll do a little capers. And then I usually will finish it either in the pan, let it kind of simmer all together. So I'll do that. So what was your question? Sorry.
I was just going to say on the noise thing, the other thing that is different about induction is they will have a fan that is keeping the electronics cool. So when you're using the surface, you'll hear a little bit of a fan noise sometimes, right? Which is just about making sure the electronics doesn't get too hot. But that's, you're not used to that with an electric range, wouldn't have that. So it's.
Yeah. And you'd be surprised too. That's a great point, Brian. Many ranges, especially your dual fuel ranges. So dual fuel is electric ovens and gas cooktops. they will also have the cooling fans. So the cooling fans are definitely a fact of life with most of your high-tech appliances. So great point. Absolutely. So I'll put my piccata back together. And then I want to talk a little bit. Oh, I turned my back burner off. One moment, please. So we talked a little bit about cookware. I want to, and look, see, this has been on there. So it's a little hot. I have those weird chef, like, don't burn hands. However, you know, there's a limit to that. So I inadvertently didn't put this one on. So let me move this. There. Okay, we'll go back on here. I think this one actually has the better visibility anyway. One thing I want to point out too, when you are looking and choosing your induction appliance, everybody asks me, like, what one would you get? Well, fortunately, I didn't have to pick because it came with my place, because I don't want to like pick a favorite child. No. So this came with, this is a GE profile, and I love it. Absolutely love it. But yes, I did not have to pick a favorite.
And that's that's a
to,
reasonably affordable unit, if I recall it correctly. I mean, it's not like one of these really high-end ones.
No, it's I love it. Yeah, it's amazing. It's about $2,300. It's phenomenal. It comes from Agron Appliance. Yay, Maine. They do an amazing job. My husband works for Agrons. I can say that. But they're incredible. So this came with, that's the difference, Brian. I'm glad you brought that up. Was that Joe or Brian? That was a you comment, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't, sorry, your faces are tiny when we're So that is a great point, is that if you buy a much lower end gas range, for example, you have to really give up a lot of power, right? You think that the only where you really start to get high BTUs or high power is when you get into those pro ranges, and those are expensive. Y'all, at 2,300 bucks, or less with rebates. There's all kinds of great things out there. And we'll circle back on some of the resources, but you will see that I have superpower here. I have the equivalent of 20,000, 25,000 BTUs, but it's in watts. So it's really confusing, but it's an amazing thing. And then if you are choosing something for your home, you have to sort of think like, same thing. How do you cook? Are you a slide screen person? Are you a push, but are you a knob person? There's all kinds of things that you have to sort of take into consideration. But I mean, look at that. It's already, you can't see inside, but it's already boiling.
Because I think even the entry level, I think you're right. I mean, even the entry level models have this boost feature on at least one burner, which will get you this incredible amount of energy, so you can boil water like unbelievably quickly, etc.
Absolutely.
But tell me a little bit, because I know. So let's just talk about knobs versus push button, because I know. So your stove there doesn't have knobs. A lot of people just feel like they got to have knobs, and they're available. But tell us about what you think about the push button.
Absolutely. And I am a slide screen smooth surface person 100%. It's easier to clean. There's less to break. However, I really understand the tactile feel of knobs. And, with a lot of people, we're saying, okay, like you're going to have this super futuristic way to cook. It's super fast. It's different than anything you've seen. And you're going to go away from knobs and into slide screen or, touch screen. So you're asking a lot of, with our iPhones, we've iterated into iPhones for most of our lives, right? So we went from the weird ones to like what we have now. This is really like somebody just took your phone with the dial off the wall, took it away, and gave you like a super high-tech iPhone. And there it is right in your kitchen. So that is, it's something to think about. I'm going to put in some corn because in Maine, it is corn season.
Ooh, delicious.
I love it. It's really great. And you guys notice, and I can point out this too, I can be all up on this. I am not in danger of catching on fire. Joe, I won't forget about the towel. I can leave this towel here. The safety features of not only the cooler handles, this is boiling, not only the cooler handles, but the air, the coolness around me. This is cool and comfortable. This is cool and safe. So for kids, my cat was just running around here. If she jumps up here, I'm not worried about her burning her little whiskers off. So I love that. But I also love it for me. You guys, I'm 4'11". I am barely above the top of this cooktop. So any extra heat, I don't want. So we're gonna
look, those cooking fires are not a joke. I mean, I think it's like it might be the #1 cause of household fires is cooking. So it's almost
really
impossible
serious
to start a fire with induction. I don't know. I don't even know how you would do it.
I'm not sure how you would do it. I don't know. I don't know.
Burners just turn off. It's amazing. I've had that happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, question from the audience, just on like if somebody's getting rid of their gas stove, what kind of electrical requirements should they be looking for induction?
That's a great question. For my chicken, by the way, I'm just gonna put some pasta in there. Let's talk about electrical. Am I too loud here?
No.
Let's talk about that. And just so everybody knows, in restaurants, if anybody had I was in restaurants for a long time, you have like one big pot of water and it's boiling and boiling, and you just kind of put foods into it, like your pasta and all of that. So I'm able to do that pretty easily here. And again, to your point, let me get back to that question in a minute, but ventilation is still important. I always have my hood on the very lightest point. And as you said, I'm not taking out methane and benzene and all of these other things, but I am removing a little bit of particulate matter, and I'm removing extra moisture. And y'all can see this. One of the ways that you can really understand the idea of particulates and microparticulates is if you're cooking something very spattery, bacon or searing a bunch of tofu or something like that, you will see that so much of that grease or that particulate matter, instead of being flamed up around the side and creating microparticulates that are smaller and float around, it's landing on the top of your cooktop. Huge difference, right? So, sorry, back to your question.
Electrical, just folks converting from gas, what do they have to think about as far as like getting power to their new induction?
Converting can be difficult. For sure. You really have to think, you might be lucky and pull out your gas range and see that there's like the 220 back there, the right kind of a plug, and that can be beautiful. You may have to increase your electrical panel, and that can be difficult. So you're going to need about 40 to 50 amps for your home, but there's a lot of really exciting technologies and ways to sort of rethink that. You guys have covered this a lot. But there are actually new technologies that we can touch on. But let me show you just one last food thing. How are we doing on time? What's our timing?
I think we're doing pretty well. Let's see the finished food.
Yeah, I'll show you the finished stuff. So like I said, the towel can be right here, no problem. So yes, you may have to do that. But as we were talking about some really exciting things. Number one, there's really exciting batteries coming out there that are going to be, your home will be able to be much more sort of independent. You're seeing cars that will be reversing, so being able to power your home. But one of the things that I am so excited about is there are 110 full power induction cooktops and ranges available now. So cool. So there are just a few, it's just starting, but Impulse Labs has a super powered induction cooktop that is a 110 and it's battery boosted. And Channing Street Copper Company has the Charlie, the copper range it's called. It's not copper color. And that is a 110 full powered range with the battery boost. I go around with their chef, Lisa, and we do events together, and she can literally cook on a range in the middle of a courtyard with no power. It is completely plugged in. And last time I did an event with her, she plugged in her own air conditioner into her range. It was really
Yeah, that's
cool. So
amazing.
it can also power other appliances during a power outage. So there are some incredible solutions happening across the board in technology. So many I couldn't even begin to name them all. So I want to show you one last food item that is my favorite food. So I had asked you guys if you ever hear the Colbert questionnaire. Stephen Colbert asks everybody what's the best sandwich? It is clearly the Maine lobster roll. So Brian, you've never had one of these babies?
No, oh my gosh, look at that.
So here,
Mm.
the key to this, I grew up in summers in Maine, so I have you have to have the roll that is pull apart. So you have to be able to toast it, butter toast it on the sides. And what I love, and I'll take my pan back, is you can get the lowest melt on your butter. So there's a bit of a battle between, lobster roll people, mayonnaise or no mayonnaise. My husband would fall over dead if I put mayonnaise into it, which I wouldn't. The way to have a lobster roll in my life is just melted butter right on top. So as I do this, let's get to any other thoughts or questions that you have.
There was a question about ventilation, about, someone was asking if I have a gas stove and I have a good ventilator, am I okay? And so but I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but all the studies I've seen say that even good ventilation is not going to completely get rid of the harmful chemicals that come from gas combustion, because some of them are heavier than air, etc. Nitrous oxide in particular are heavy, so they don't get ventilated well. But is that what your understanding as well, Rachelle?
Yeah, absolutely. If you think about it, no matter what you do, like I was a private chef for years and I had to work with these really, really hot gas stoves. I was also in restaurants. Now that's really, really hot. Don't get me wrong. If you think about how much heat comes off of those, right? That heat is also supposed to go up into that hood. Think about how much heat and smell permeate the home. That is the same path that all these gases and particulates are taking. And unfortunately, the bigger hoods, the big kind of professional hoods, they're really loud. And so whether people like it or not, whether they think about it or not, they often don't use them, or they don't use them well or long enough. Yeah. So it's a huge problem for sure.
Perfect. If you just bought a new home and you had an induction stove there, what tips would you give? What are your kind of top tips that you give to somebody who's just about to, purchase an induction stove? How do they get started?
Sure. How to get started cooking?
And actually with the purchasing process, I was thinking. So what?
Yes. Yeah. And I slightly touched on this. If you are starting new, that's certainly easier because you can dictate then like your cutouts and your matching appliances, and you can kind of put that whole kitchen together. If you are replacing, it's harder because not all cutouts are the same. So especially for a cooktop, remember that a cooktop drops into the counter. So getting the right size of the cooktop and exchanging that can be tricky, as well as your electrical. I always let people know that you want to get the model and all the information of the unit, the gas, if you have a gas unit that you have. Everything from, and then your appliance people can look up the cutouts and all the sizes. The other thing you need to think about, and this is with any appliance replacement, is it going to look really weird next to your other appliances? And sometimes people don't think about that. What's nice is a lot of the induction appliances have a very neutral look. But you have to really think about, and this is with all exchanges, like, is the look or the handle going to look really different? And so that's something people don't always think about. So for some people, they don't care, it wouldn't bother them. Other people that, bother them. So there's a lot to think about. The other thing is
Michelle, sorry, real
your
quick.
oven.
Kat's wondering if like wattage elements is something you should look for. Like, do you need that? Do you need to be concerned about wattage for the power of your induction stove?
You do, yes. You need to make sure that you have enough for your whole your whole electrical load. The other thing though you need to think about on your surface is how many, like, there are lots of configurations. Same with gas cooktops, right? You can get some that have all the pro burners and they are 19,500 BTUs all across the board. Or you can get some that have little and big and all these things. What I have here is I have 5 elements on here. So I have a larger one, 2 medium ones, and 2 smaller ones. And then I have the bridge, which I love because that can hold a really big pan. And then you have to also figure out if you cook on high heat all the time on multiple pans, you want to make sure that whatever one you get, it doesn't pull a lot of power from the nearby elements. And there you can have that feature available in a lot of different price points, which is really, really cool. Yep, power sharing, exactly.
Love it. Hey,
I know.
maybe a good final question is talking about the longevity and reliability of induction stoves. Debbie's wondering how long will they last?
Yeah.
Any
Yeah,
thoughts?
I'm happy to answer that. So it's pretty exciting news is that induction is it's a very sealed system. So it's a lot harder to break it. If you do, it can be expensive. If you really, I have never in all of my days of doing this for like over 10 years of being an induction super fan, and then in earnest since 2019, I have never seen one get smashed or cracked, but it could happen. My cat, do you hear her? She's like whining and crying.
No.
So, shh, this is not about you. She's adorable. So that is a really good thing. Your gas cooktop or range, you're going to have more repairs, but the repairs are going to be less expensive. With any appliance you get, and this is something that the Yale appliance team talks about a lot. This is something that Rob's company, Agrin, does really well. They have people that service their appliances. And this is with gas, electric, whatever it is you're getting. You want to try to find out if they can really take care of that appliance. We need a lot of electricians. We need a lot of also appliance installation people. So there haven't been as many people going into that side of the industry. So you want to be aware, and that's with any appliance that you get. Really try to find out if they can help you take care of those appliances. So that's the bigger question. The reliability of induction is pretty exciting.
Awesome. Great. Well, Brian, I think we've covered most questions. Any last ones you're seeing that we should cover?
I think we really got most of them. I think we should wrap up here, and then if people want to stick on, we'll go through the questions and Q&A that's on here.
Meanwhile, I'll make you a lobster roll. My favorite.
You're making me hungry. Look at that. Holy cow.
And I wanted to just point out one thing that's really important, and you guys touched on this earlier, is that the Building Decarbonization Coalition, you can be a member, you can join us, and you can go onto our website and learn about the amazing things we're doing, which you had talked about earlier. You can also touch on to our Switches On website, which you also mentioned. We are Switches On. We have Switches On California, and we're up in your neck of the woods. We have Washington State. So the Switches On is, like you had mentioned, it's a fantastic resource for a lot of learning. And you can certainly look at it. There it is. You can look at it and enjoy it wherever you are across the country. But note that the rebates and the contractor finder and all of that are very specific to the regions. But we are bringing Switches On across the nation. So this is the Maine lobster roll. Super amazing. Da, 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 da.
Oh my gosh, my new favorite sandwich. I got to have one of those.
It's the only sandwich. And I'm so excited and so happy to be part of this today.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much, Rachelle. That was fantastic.
Oh,
Oh,
So this is a whoopie pie. It is the celebrated main dessert. It is really beautiful. And I want to thank my husband, Robert. It's his birthday tomorrow. So
happy
we don't have
birthday,
to
Robert.
happy birthday,
we don't have to
Robert.
sing for him, but while we're answering questions, I will light him a whoopie pie.
Happy birthday, Robert.
Happy birthday, Robert.
Thank you. I get to eat it all.
Here, blow it out.
Good,
Okay, well, let's
man behind the camera. Thank you.
oh, Robert, thank you so much. And happy birthday.
Was that whoopie pie made on the induction stove? I guess is the question.
No, in the oven.
Okay, great.
Oh,
Great.
I
There you
didn't
go.
even go into how amazing electric ovens are. That's a whole nother story, but talk about superpower. So
Awesome.
yeah.
thank you all
Okay.
so much. And thank you, BDC, for giving me an amazing job to go around the country and share my passions.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Rachelle. And yeah, we're going to end the official video here, but we're going to stick around for anyone who wants to listen to some more additional Q&A and ogle this delicious food. Thanks everyone for tuning in today.